Right.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics on Rice. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. And of course, good morning to the world, receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet, formerly known as the ARPANET, and created by we the people, controlled by too many billionaires, or said, too few people. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. Buenos dias, Mayana. I know it's not in the studio. Where are you, our beautiful lady? Your voice is missed. Anyhow, without further ado, let's move on to the geniuses in the studios, which is Howard Reynolds and Jacques Van Beba.
Well, it's about time that Jack got top billing because he is the guy who makes it all happen. People around here think that I make it all happen, but I don't. Folks like Jack make it happen. Good morning, Egberto. It is Tuesday morning at the radio, December 8th, 2025. And we are still here, and we are still broadcasting, and we're ready to listen to what Jack has to say.
Oh, good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Buenos dias, mi hermano. All is fine here, my friend. Talk to me.
Yeah, we're missing Miana.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. All right. This show steps into a moment when American hunger for something fundamentally better, an agenda grounded in affordability, abundance, and democratic power. Across the country, grassroots voices challenge the old political narratives. A farmer breaks through the noise and exposes how Trump's economic myths sink rural communities. Meanwhile, on the world stage, Brazil warns that a U.S. military adventure in Venezuela could ignite a regional calamity. Together, these stories reveal a nation at a crossroads choosing between fear driven decline and people powered movement ready to build a just and peaceful future. On your talking points, you had Latin America leaders push diplomacy over, and sovereignty over U.S. adventurism and resource-driven extraction, and a unified affordability movement can counter both economic exploitation at home and militarism abroad. So I kind of had a response to that. We the people, the dissenters, us who believe in democracy, democratic rule, must resist the corporate from ruling over we the people. Resist the military being used by corporate power to subdue Venezuela to exploit its resources for American corporate profit, not the welfare of American citizens. This authoritarian resource grab will turn Latin America against U.S. and hurt us all. Hurt us all.
Exactly
In
right.
the long run.
Exactly
Mhm.
right. Exactly right. Well, look, guys, since you went ahead and started with Venezuela, I just want to say a few things, and that is, um, we as a people, we as Americans, we have to become aware of what's being done in our name, and we also have to prevent the ease of being gullible, of believing what we hear people say, especially people that have proven to be completely and entirely unreliable as they continue to lie to us. We pay all these wars that we get into, we pay for it not just in money, but in the lack of resources allotted to we the people that could give us college educations, that could give us great health care. I want you to think of what was accomplished in Iraq and what was accomplished in Afghanistan. Think about just the amount of money expended in those two countries. If that money instead was redirected not to a whole, to a select few. Because I want you to think about this. When we go to war, we don't just get the military industrial complex building and spending all that money that we could actually say, as macabre as it is, at least some employment is coming from having to build more stuff. That's not what happens. When we fight in Iraq, and I learned this from many of my friends who actually were stationed in the Green Zone and elsewhere, those people aren't fed by we the people. The capitalists go out there and take our money, go ahead and go to companies in India or Suriname or wherever to get the best price on the buck on how to feed our folks. You know, we used to cook our own foods when we were overseas. Now a private contractor is hired to provide the food, and our soldiers get a swipe. So they go into the mess hall, they swipe. When they swipe, it's cha-ching, a fixed amount of money, no matter what they go in there and take. They swipe. And for each plate, I don't remember what it was, but let's say $20, $30 a plate that or at entry that these private companies get. The military industrial complex that that pretty much generate the impetus for war all of the times is something we have to get away from. But I'll get a little bit more into detail later on as we get into the program. But let me start with our farmers. We should. I gave a little talk on Sunday. I think it was not Saturday. I think it was no, actually it was on Saturday, where we discussed talking to the other side, speaking to our MAGA brothers and sisters, and I got a better response than I thought I would have gotten. I thought as soon as I said that, people would start sneering and screaming or whatever. But I think people are starting to realize that sort of something that Uju and a few others have said on this program, that we understand the mental problem, and in doing so, we have to act accordingly. We have to talk, listen. We got to listen. We got to talk. And the reason why is one doesn't intelligently vote against your interests. They do it because they just have been convinced and because of certain ways they were reared. I want you to listen to this piece that I'm going to play, and I hope it works. I've been having a little bit of channeling problems that I have to solve later on, but I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. A farmer who clearly knows math, when the time was appropriate, called out other farmers who supported Donald Trump pretty much as being naive, uneducated folks who have no business sense. I want you to listen to how he says it. He didn't quite say it that graphically, but I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Joining us, Arkansas soybean farmer Scott Brown. Scott, really good to have you. Thanks for being here. $12 billion. How's that sound to you?
Well, I appreciate the help, but it's a far cry from what we need. Just the loss in corn this year with a record crop was over 16 billion. The loss in soybeans at production is around 11 billion. That doesn't count cotton and rice, which are even bigger losses than that.
So this $12 billion is not going to make up for this 1 year. I mean, say China goes back to buying soybeans and other crops as they were buying before this trade war. Is $12 billion not enough to bridge that gap?
Probably not. You've got a lot of boys that's got $400,000 to $700,000 worth of rollover debt that's eat their equity up in the last 2.5 years. They don't have anywhere to go. They don't have anything to do. And you've got guys that are not going to take that ground. So if you don't make everybody whole, and let everybody stand on their own 2 feet and get off this hamster wheel of government aid, which is what we all want. The taxpayer wants it. We want it. Everybody wants it. You need to square everybody up. Senator Moran even said it was a $40 billion problem. So, I mean, his own senator says $40 billion, and what's he come up with? $12 billion.
12 billion is not 40 billion. I'll give you that. There's also some talk out there. It's an unverified report, but a marketing firm reported that U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer said there's no deal as of now for soybeans from China. That sent the markets, by the way, plunging, the futures.
Yes, ma'am. We lost 60-something cents of the money they gave back, which none of the farmers actually had that money anyway. The elevators got that. Most of us had beans sold early in the fall because we were scared that there wasn't going to be a rally. So this dollar that there was in the rally was actually the elevators got all that money, not us. But yeah, it's backed it up. January beans are sub $11. You got, with a basis, you got next year sub $11, and you've got everybody screaming from StoneX down that inputs are going up next year. So we're going to be back here next year if somebody doesn't fix this right and address the problem instead of actually putting Band-Aids on it.
Help me understand, I'm sorry, the mindset of the American farmer, because you're kind of an outlier here on this, but the American farmer has generally gone for Donald Trump, even after the first term when Donald Trump also imposed tariffs and also had to bail out farmers, gave him a big bailout. They came back for him again in 2024, and this is happening all over again, but in an even bigger way. Why does the American farmer support Donald Trump?
You have a large number of farmers that can't separate their morals from their business. They vote their conscience and they vote what they morally believe. But farming is a business. At the end of the day, this is a business, just like a trucking company or a train company. And it's about dollars and cents. It's about what do we make? How much can we make? We have to feed the American people first and then worry about feeding the world. But this is a business. That's what your banker will tell you every year when you go down there. You either cash flow or you don't cash flow. So you either run this like a business or you run this like a hobby. Some guys can't differentiate between the two, and that's about as honest as I can be about it.
Is that what it is? Because they'll also say that Donald Trump is great for business, that they believe in him for business, even when the business is not going so well. We haven't seen a market break among farmers in their support for Donald Trump, even since this has been happening.
I mean, what's good about it? I mean, you've got Arkansas's leading the nation in farm bankruptcies. You've got farm bankruptcies up. You've got profits down. Arkansas will tell you they lost $6 billion this year in farm income. I mean, ask a banker. They were testifying in Congress, 2 or 3 months ago, screaming and yelling that can the farmer not understand where he's at? I mean, I trucked for years before I farmed. I understood exactly what it cost per mile to haul a load of cattle from Missouri to Kansas. And I had to get above that to make a living. Or we couldn't pay drivers. We couldn't pay for insurance. We couldn't run our business. Farming's the same way. I don't understand how come they can't do the math. This is all math to me. It's just a business.
So yes, Donald Trump is giving them $12 billion after cratering their exports, meaning soybeans, rice, cotton, everything he cratered for them. And he decided he's going to give them $12 billion. Let's watch how much of that $12 billion are actually going to get into the farmers' hands as opposed to corporations. We know where it's going. All the big guys are going to get the money. But the other thing is that he points out that $12 billion that Donald Trump is going to give them is not going to cover it. After all, even the Secretary of Agriculture claims that it is a $40 billion at least hole that they are going to have to cover. But of course, there'll be no covering. The farmers will just consistently go out of business as the plutocrats buy up their land on the cheap for them to make themselves quasi-whole. Well, they won't be making themselves whole. They're just going to be giving up the land that they have. But this farmer made it clear. How can Arkansas farmers vote for Donald Trump when Arkansas is the center of farm bankruptcies? How can they support Donald Trump when he comes back of the billions that he's collected in tariffs? He comes and he gives them a pittance in $12 billion to solve their problems. How can they really support Donald Trump? Well, as he said, it's about math. And apparently these guys simply don't know math. But I'll go once. I'll differ, or not differ. I'll tell what it is. Let me tell you. when we talk about in an earlier call, we had a call from from one of our listeners who pointed out that MAGAism is really a mental disorder. And when that disorder supersedes your intellect, that's a real disorder. That's a real mental issue. And that is what those farmers who are still supporting Donald Trump, those farmers who are somehow thinking that Donald Trump is going to ultimately make them whole and seem oblivious to what he's doing, using them for the vote as he maximizes his profits with the corporatocracy, with those who are willing to pay him off until they see that. And you know what? Some of them will. Over the weekend, I went over and I gave a little talk in Montgomery, a very red area. And the one thing that I said is what folks are going to have to do is go out there and speak to these people eye to eye. Take the sneers, but speak to them eye to eye, mano a mano. Listen. Listen to what they have to say and use their words to interrogate their actual values, what they're doing, and in that manner, showing them that in reality, are those really your values? Or who is actually best representing your values again? Make them come to that conclusion. That's how we bring him over. Anyway, this farmer all but condemned his brethren who are still supporting Donald Trump. Absolutely so. Beforehand, I want to welcome Joe from Los Angeles, California, Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia, Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas, Billy Allison from beautiful Summerwood, Lita Bearcat from Austin, Texas, LBW. La Profesora is in the house, Asterion as well. Glenn Ryan, I'm going to answer that in a minute. Glenn Ryan from Katy, Texas. Pam Wade. We've got Stephen Rosenweig. He says, farm apocalypse now. That's an interest we're putting it. Laura, how you doing, Laura? Good morning, beautiful. We also have Jane V. La Preciosa in North Carolina. Welcome aboard. Marnie from Charleston, South Carolina says he agrees with what we're talking about. Welcome, guys. I love LA. Stadium, I guess that means you are from Los Angeles. No, I think you're supported. You're shouting out Joanne from LA. Joanne gets up early in the morning. Love you, Joanne, for being here. Love you for being here. I want to address what we just talked about. But first, I want to show you the fallacy. Marnie is in Charleston, South Carolina. I want to show you the fallacy of what we're talking about. But let me address Glenn. Glenn, yes, they said their values. And remember, we called it a mental illness and gullibility. You see what Trump and his ilk, and it's not Trump. It's been done for a long time. Astidian is from San Diego. It's been done for a long time. You have these guys move their eyes to a different ball. They know these guys' prejudices. The farmers who get to take advantage of the benefits. They know their prejudices. They know they're scared these others are going to come in and take over what we're doing. They also work on their implied Christianity. Oh, trans is bad. Not that. I'd like somebody in the Bible to show me where trans were ever mentioned. You won't find it. Oh, trans. Oh, homosexuals. The Bible speaks more about fornication than it does anything about homosexuals. And a lot of these farmers, we can rest assured they're fornicating and they're supporting the fornicator in chief. So when they talk about values, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know as they support the fornicator in chief as their moral high ground. I don't know what they're talking about. When this guy says they vote their morals, if you're voting your morals and you vote for Donald Trump, please explain, make that make sense to me. It simply doesn't make any sense. So, what we're looking at is the common denominator has to be gullibility. It has to be a level of a lot of people that equate themselves as Republican have a certain racist pedigree that many have not come to. What is the word that I want to use? come to grasp with. And I know that will a lot of people will jump at that brashness of what I've just said. But I speak to thousands of people every month, thousands, and I'm not just saying that as a number. I'm saying thousands of people I address, I talk, I speak, I listen, I analyze, and one would not believe the recessive form of fear and racism that occurs in the Republican vote. That's why we have the issues that we have right now. But I want to get back onto economics. I want to get back to economics. And by the way, anybody that disagrees with me, you know this is your program. You can call and and try to refute what I've said. 281, or rather 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. But let me show you the evil within the system. The farmers are suffering. Their prices have cratered. The price of their product have cratered. What is the box of cereal that you go into the store? What is it mostly made of? Corn. What are the oils that many of these cereals and other products that you buy, yogurt, everything that you buy? What is some of the base product? Soybean oil. So there's a glut of corn, there's a glut of soybean, there's a glut of rice, there's a glut of all these things because countries like China are not buying it. And we go to the store and we don't see a fall in price of all these products. Some people would say, well, please remember, Egberto, a lot of farm goods are bought on contracts, futures. But that's not the answer because the futures have been dead for a while. Where are the prices, the big price drop in cereals, in corn, and rice that you're buying at the store, and all the products that are made of derivatives of soybean, corn, and we are a corn economy. I ask you to look at every single box of Cheetos, every single box of every snack, every single box of product that you use, and you see the place that corn plays in it. And with the price of corn down, cratering, cheap, weren't you seeing that in the stores? When we talk about the fake and the evil economy, those are the things that we're speaking about. When did you hear any time on mainstream media the question, when did they bring any of the manufacturers on to TV and say, wait a minute, we have a glut in all these raw resources that you use for your products. Why are their prices inflated? Why is there inflation in products if your base material has so fallen in price? You get it? You see what I'm talking about? No change. And the prices keep going up. And then we continue to support a ridiculous, immoral immigration policy that reduces the workforce needed to get your crops, needed to cut your meats, needed to do all these things that Americans are not wanting to do. Do you get the mental illness here now? Do you understand the mental illness in supporting, one, an economy of this sort, and two, in supporting the policies that harm? I'm going to digress, or rather, I'm going to pause for a while. Listen to what you have to say. Jimmy, come on in, line one.
Yesterday, I heard on the news that President Trump has designated his birthday as Flag Day, and people can visit the national parks free on Flag Day. At the same time, he took away the rights of people to visit the national parks free on Martin Luther King's birthday and on Juneteenth, which are both national holidays. That is a racist move on his part because those two holidays are celebrating Martin Luther King and the day we heard that the Civil War was over and the slaves were free. So those are two racist remarks. Is the issues that Trump has taken. And the other day he called a whole group of people garbage.
Yeah. It's important that people like you see that, Brother Jimmy, and speak up about it. Like I mentioned, we don't hear the media given the narrative that you just gave. They report that, yeah, he changed that, but they don't report the narrative that you just did. And that's the reason not only our program is important, but the audience listening to this program who are in the know is important. Thank you very much, Jimmy.
Incidentally, Juneteenth is the day that Galveston found out that the Civil War was over. It had really been over for about 2 years. 2 years. That day is the day that the slaves got to be free in Texas.
Thank you, brother.
Okay,
you have a wonderful
day.
You too, my brother. You too. All right. Welcome aboard, Gabriel Kamins. How do you say that? Kaminsky. Welcome aboard, Pam Wade. LBW. I think I saluted you, LBW. Marnie says, I want a U.S. with more Egberto and Mandanis. Thank you. Love you, brother. Or Marnie, I always call Marnie brother, but I really don't know from the name of his brother or sister. Anyway, let's go to John. Come on in, John.
Morning.
Good morning, John.
Hey, you made always good points every morning. I listen to you, and it just further on shows you how the immorality of this whole nation is built upon a false narration that white people built this country, so it belongs to them. And it further on goes to show you just how much urgency there is in the United States to reform our political system. I think we need to stop talking more about Trump. This is the worst and the most corrupt administration. But what worries me is he's going to get out of power and nothing will be done about it. And there's so many. Trump is not the problem. There are many Trumps coming along him. And unless something is done to prevent this from ever happening again, we will keep on having this kind of problem. And I don't know why they didn't impeach him. I don't know why he wasn't sent to jail for what he tried to do on January after the election of Biden. The mere fact that the Democratic Party keeps playing panty-foot with this problem, it's only going to metastasize. And I'm afraid it's grown to the point where I'm not so sure who's going to be elected next. And that's the real problem that we're having. We can't fix a simple problem. Immigration has been a problem for the last 40 years. 4 administrations. They're kicking it down the can. They come up with TPS. How do you call something TPS, yet somebody's been here for 15 years? You can't call me temporary protective status, and yet I'm here permanently already having kids born in here. We have so many problems in this country, and I'm really afraid for our children and what we've done to them. And as an adult, and every other adult listening, we are the problem because we don't speak up when our congressmen and women, hide something when you blow up somebody in a boat. When do we say, okay, enough is enough? Show us the video. We pay the taxes, not them. It's us who run this government. It's not the government run us. This mentality is the worst problem in the United States.
Look,
Thank you.
wait, don't leave, John, because I just so love what you had to say. I just so love what you had to say, and you're absolutely right. And I mean, that's the purpose of a program like this. When you say people don't speak up because people don't know, and we got so we got so comfortable in leaving it to others and comfortable in the false narratives that we've allowed ourselves to believe in, and the belief in those false narratives is what have us in the position that we have today. You mentioned something about white people believing that they built this country. That's not,
Yep.
that is a narrative that was imposed on folks, right, to create a certain level of separation, right, to control.
Yep.
So we are here to enlighten, to educate. That's what, by you bringing up the subjects that you just brought up, that is an important factor. That it starts at the grassroots. You know, Glenn Elkin said something very important. Glenn Rand. He says the lack of an opposition party is the problem because they're just a lighter version of Republicans, meaning the Democrats are a lighter version of Republicans. And he's partially
That's
correct.
correct.
He's partially correct. The neoliberal Democrats are nothing but Republican moderates. But there is, when we talk about what the progressives are doing, and there used to be progressive Republicans as well, but progressives have to get the job done. In other words, like you just said, we can't simply wait for somebody else to do it. I've told a story about why I'm doing what I'm doing here. And that is because I once said, somebody needs to do this, somebody needs to do this, somebody needs to do that. And realize, well, if you don't look in the mirror and say that somebody has to be me, nobody does it. And the same applies to you, John, with what you just did. You just came and gave a commentary that was listened to by thousands of people that will tantalize them into action. 1, 2, 3, 10, 100. When they say, well, wait a minute, John is right. I have to activate. And that is where we have to work on getting exponential progression of the message. First, to let people know that they're already
Right.
empowered to do these things. And secondly, that
I've
they
been trying to
must,
look for. Yeah.
yeah, that they must do it. So, John, give me a closing word and then I'll go to the next caller.
Now, my only closing word is find a good independent out there and vote for them. So you can vote all this mess and nonsense out of Congress. It will not change with either political party. One is going to lie to you, and one is lying on your face. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. All right, let's go to Brother Ray, my brother in the third ward. Talk to me.
Yes, yes. First, I want to say thank you to Brother John. He spoke very true words, as I would say, straight facts. And I want to kind of piggyback off of, what he said. Like, there is a culture of white people. It's basically the caucasity of it, if I can say that word, is when I heard that farmer say, it's about business, but we vote our morals. That's dog whistle language. I'm very keen in on dog whistle language. And when I heard him say that, I heard him say, I'm tired of seeing the N word in the White House. These N words have been too happy seeing one of their own. We need to take this country back. And I remember I was watching a clip of Chris Rock on Instagram, like a reel. It was one of his skits where he said, white people keep saying that they're losing the country to who? It ain't us. And he's right. Who are they losing the country to? The moment that a black man sat at that top executive level of this country, then all of a sudden the hysteria, oh, we're losing the country, because they couldn't stand to see a man of color, a minority who was educated and articulate and could overtalk any one of those I'm not going to name Paul, but those people, he was way too advanced for them, and they hated it. And I admit, when Obama was the president, culturally, it shifted the nation because black people felt more worthy than we ever felt. We said we had a black person in the White House. No, he wasn't A1 on all his policies, He did some stuff with the drones and the wars and all that. But from the symbolistic part of it, he meant a lot to our race to say that we finally made it in some capacity. And then you had people like Mitch McConnell say, we gave you a black president. Now shut up, sit down, and take these horrible policies we about to push and all of these horrible judges that we about to push through. And Donald Trump was the vessel to make all of that happen.
Let me just say this, Ray. Thank you for your words. Here's the funny thing that I see, because something that I talk about all of the time. That we put so much on race, and I'm not speaking about you specifically, but that those who put so much on race, when you think about it, it is such an idiotic thing, right? I always say that I have to speak about race because we are in a racialized society. But I mean, I've done several tests. You know how your buddy is here. I've done several tests, right?
Very
And
scientific.
and done all these kind of questions, and from biological questions to mental questions, etc. And we know. I mean, I know it empirically, but sometimes you just want to have the data to back it. The fact that so many are so concentrated on race is by design, because the only way you can have an economic system, and I always send it right back to economy. And some of the people in the black diaspora or the Latino diaspora sort of get upset that I put so little on to race when I'm talking about these issues, because they said we have to handle the racial problem before we handle the economic problem. I don't think you can handle the racial problem in a lifetime, but I think you can handle the economic problem in a lifetime. You see, when people have been indoctrinated for a long time, look, I have, you have all your friends, and I'm going to talk on this a little bit, because since we're talking race here, I want to say this. When you were born, when I was born, and I was born in Panama, right? I'm a Panamanian. We were under, I lived on the canal zone. And as much as a Panamanian, because my father worked for the Pan Canal, after the riots of 64, a lot of particular jobs in the canal zone, they created a parts of the canal zone where we Panamanians could live, but it was really to ensure that we could get to work and keep that canal running, whether it's a fire department or any other department. But we all knew our station, right? Because the Americans, and when I say Americans, in effect, because it's Panama, it's white people coming into Panama and effecting apartheid in the canal zone. And you won't hear a lot of Panamanians talking about that, because we were so indoctrinated ourselves. We thought, you got a chance to live with the Americans on the canal zone. In as much as there was apartheid on the canal zone, you had different rights, etc. Oh, but you were adjacent to the Americans, right? And that's how a lot of Panamanians living on the canal zone grew up. And so I witnessed as a young person how all of that caste system is inculcated. Those kids that went to school there, they grew up thinking that they were superior to those of us living on the other side of the track. And folks, I'm taking a little bit of time because I think it's important, on the other side of the track. That's how they were reared. That's how they grew up. What fault is it if the system that they grew into, that was inculcated into one's mind? So when I came to the United States, I came with a chip on the shoulders. These SOBs thought that I was less than. And what we did as Panamanians, when we finally got the schools, the American and Latin American schools integrated on the canal zone, is our teachers prepared us to be the best. And we went out when we joined these schools and cleaned house intellectually. I mean, cleaned house. And that was done not because these people were better than, them at all. It wasn't that. It was simply to show there is true equity. Now, coming over to the United States, I had the same chip on my shoulder. I was going to come into these schools, and I mean, I got into trouble with professors who were racist. I got into trouble with, I mean, because again, a chip on the shoulder. But later on in growing, later on in becoming an adult, it changed from that feeling of who the hell do you think you are to that feeling of, man, if you, Ray, was reared the way most of the majority class was raised, you would be no different because you were raised under that unsaid thing that you live under. So what do somebody like myself as a host trying to bring people together to do? You know, we can also, like you just did eloquently, point out the problems, like John did eloquently point out the problems and just throw it out there's a problem, or try to give the narrative that explain things. And for those who are willing to see the truth of what you're saying, great. But there will always be those immutable that, in effect, we ultimately must extricate. But anyway, thank you for giving me a chance to give this little soliloquy, brother. Anything else you want to add before I jump to Augie?
Yeah, I just want to say, based on everything we say, as long as people keep trying to disguise their prejudice as their morals, this country is never going to move forward. And for the people
And
that
that's
actually have real morals, they need to get out and stop being lazy and vote their interests and get this country back on track. Because there's more of us than that.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. All right, let's go to Augie.
Good morning.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
In Iraq, who won? America didn't win. Halliburton won. Dick Cheney got the contracts for Halliburton to create our bases in Afghanistan. It used to be the Marines and Navy had their CBs. The Army had their combat engineers. The Air Force had their own civil engineers called the Red Horse. But Halliburton went in there instead of them, said, we'll make the bases for the military. And they made these metal containers, but their engineers forgot to ground them. And our special forces, some of them were killed taking showers in there because those metal containers weren't grounded. In Iraq, the Iraqi people were glad that we had overthrown Saddam. And they thought they were going to be able to rebuild their own country. And they cheered the American military that went in, thinking they would leave. But they stayed. And the military were professionals, but then they were kicked out of the military. So what did they do? They joined the terrorists. They're the ones that created the IEDs. They had all this military experience, and they used it against Americans with the terrorists. And they had professionals in telecommunications, too. And they had restored almost everything that the Americans had bombed out when Halliburton came in. And Halliburton told them, you got to undo everything we did. Undo your computer system and your telecommunication systems. Halliburton is being paid to restore them.
Yeah,
Halliburton never did finish restoring
the thing about it, let me interrupt a second, Augie. Let me just say this at such thing. Remember, I don't know of a conflict that we expended resources on behalf of the people we invaded. I don't know of any country we have invaded because we wanted to be nice to those people or we wanted to free them. I know of no country that is true of. And anybody who can give me a call and tell me that answer, and that pretty much, what Augie just described is just another example of that. But Augie, we're running out of time, so I got to move on, brother. So look, my fault, of course, but thank you so kindly for your call, sir.
Yeah. Well, thanks for
All
what
right.
you do there.
Thank you, brother. Cheryl Elkin says, we don't know our history really. We know the myth, and the parties exploit this. I agree with John. We need to find courage to speak up, speak out, and stand firm against racism, classism, misogyny. It is up to every one of us to rescue this democracy. And Cheryl, let me just say this a direct word to you. Uh, we need so badly for folks like you, a white person like you, to be in the fold. Because again, there are things that, because of the framing of this country, you can do that others can't. And I'm talking to my white brothers and sisters that are listening to me here, progressives who understand not the myth, but the reality. It is up to you to get out there and make a difference, because a lot of those who share or believe they share who you are will get that permission slip from you. You don't understand how important that permission slip can be, but they'll get that permission slip from you. There's this stuff about camaraderie. There's this stuff about knowing that you have a place to land. When I talk about having a place to land, that's part of it as well. Donald, come on in, my brother, line number two.
Good morning, Egberto. What else are you going to Egberto explain to us?
Oh my God, please
That's
don't
what
tell
you
me that's
do.
what I'm doing.
Egberto explain.
Hey, I hope you're using that as a positive and not a negative, because when a woman tells me, don't mansplain to me, I'm like, oh God, I screwed up.
So now you've taken enough beating over not educating us on the amendments that went through, because you had plenty of time, because they post them beforehand. But if you ever look at the Song of the South through the different lenses, the Song of the South, Uncle Remus, you can't control his mind. And he was singing Zippity Doo Dah, so he's happy in his mind. But if you look at that power struggle and structure inside of that movie, that old white woman still got her plantation. The slaves are still there working, but now they're getting paid. And
Wow.
the white guy that was the straw boss, he's still there. But his little trashy daughter, Jenny, gets to go hang out with the little white kids. And then he got to go to town to get thread to fix his wife's wedding dress so she can go to the party. And then she goes, I get a present too. If you just look at that movie through a different lens, you will see the white people are in power. Just like in Jesus Christ times, I told you this before, the money changers, he flipped, they still got that same money. And they've been controlling all of us all this whole time.
You know something?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. I want to answer that in a little bit, but go ahead.
Well, no, the ignorance of one drop of DNA from a male of a certain race makes you something. No, you are you. You do not let the world control your mind. You control your mind. Get educated, not indoctrinated. And on your love thing,
yeah, go
there
ahead.
is Latin. And see, Latin cannot be manipulated. So there are 4 or 5 terms, agape and a few others, but we have dumbed down our civilization, and it goes back to the Oxford Dictionary. If you watch The Madman and the Professor, or it's The Professor and the Madman, it's Mel Gibson and Sean Penn. It will explain how words change through time. And it's just whoever's in control and whoever's manipulating the system. And then on supply and demand, that's something they teach you in school, but that stuff ain't true. Because when we have a drought, we have a surplus of cows that go to slaughter. But the people that control the slaughterhouses and the futures, they never cut the price.
There you go.
We can have a surplus of everything. We're never going to get a break.
You know what? It's called false scarcity. And man, I tell you, Donald, you're a genius. I mean, sometimes you say some stuff that I really want to kind of slap your head around, because when you say your little sexist stuff, right? I know you're doing it in jest, but women beat up on me for allowing you to come on air and say certain things. All right.
You're Egberto's playing, and then you got to send me to that concentration camp so I can get reprogrammed.
But let me just say something that you said that I think. Wait! Don't leave yet. Because I want to say something that I think. When you mention about white people and the plantation, etc. There's something that I think you missed, however, in the argument, and it's as follows. Most white people are in the same boat as everybody else. But what the plutocracy made them believe are two things. One, that that privilege gave something, and even though many a times it's not the thing that they hoped it would have given, and secondly, that they are doing just as I don't want to say badly as everybody else, but what I should say is that they're being ripped off just as everybody else, and that that racism that's instilled in them is a design of the economic system to ensure that the others can continue their parasitic behavior. But we go into that another
It
time.
is
Go ahead.
structural. It's structural. That's why I
Amen.
refer to myself as po white trash. I'm happy to be po white trash, but I have a brain and I know
All
where I'm
right.
going when I die. So you
You
can't
know
do nothing.
I will never ever refer to you that way, brother. But you have a wonderful rest of your day. Okay.
Take it easy, yes sir. Bye bye.
Take care, brother. Peace. I love me some Johns. I know, ladies. Sometimes you make sure that I don't let him get away with some of his sexist comment. But I mean, this guy's a good guy. We all have our little things here and there. But John, yeah, Don, you get me beat up a lot sometimes. But anyway, um, and I get back with you as well. But anyway, I'll talk about Venezuela in this few minutes that are left. The Ignacio Lula pointed out something. Donald Trump better not open a can of worms. That's my part of the world. And let me just say that that part of the world is not the part of the world that it used to be before. It's yes, that we've always believed in revolutions and that sort of stuff, but also there's a new pride that is going through the entire Latin America. Well, we can take Argentina and Chile out of that many a times, but for the rest of the Latin American countries and Caribbean countries, there's a certain degree of pride. And even if they're not friendly with each other right now, all these countries, if the United States attempts to invade or do whatever, they will in fact create a unity down in Latin America. And it won't be necessarily the unity of governments because a lot of the governments are in fact paid off by the CIA, etc. But it will be the people getting together. And if you think guerrilla warfare was tough in Vietnam, guerrilla warfare in a hot, humid equator area will kill our boys and girls. So I suggest all of you that are hanging on, watching Hegseth blow stuff up in the ocean, to tell them to be careful because the kind of war that you would have out there in Venezuela and the surrounding countries, because they are going to engage. They will engage, will make what Castro did in Cuba look like a cakewalk. So I'm urging the United States government. Iraq is flat and open. You can't hide much. Vietnam, yeah, napalm did a whole lot of clearing. That's not going to work out there in Venezuela. Mountainous, the amount of people, the kind of weapons that are already down there. Let's not make that mistake. We have no right to control any other country's airspace. We have no rights to control any other country's territorial waters. We have no right to tell any other country how they need to be. This stuff about speak softly and carry a big stick, Monroe Doctrine, and uh, well, we can even talk about the westward move, manifest destiny. All of that is crap to empower a few. It is well worth dropping that now, and for us Americans to make sure our government knows that, because we are the ones who are going to spill blood out there, and it will be yet another lost war. This is a warning. All right, studio.
Okay, well, we were sitting back here asleep. Actually, we weren't asleep.
Oh God.
Well, no. I was listening to you and I was enthralled in the fact that Do we really want another Vietnam? I mean, do we
No.
want another Iraq? Come on, man. Just stop it. It's oil wars is what it is. Venezuela has the oil. We want the oil. Venezuela nationalized the oil fields. We didn't like that. They kicked the major companies out. We didn't like that. So, on behest of the major oil companies, Donald Trump is going to go down there and be tough. I think not. Jack, what you got?
I just the sentiment is just the same here because we went into to Iraq over oil. Gaza's probably about oil. It's oil power is the corrupting power throughout the world.
I think that Gaza's about natural gas.
Yeah,
So I think the natural gas fields under there, that's what
yeah.
they want. All right,
Let,
you got about a minute and 15 seconds to wrap it up. Take it home,
All right.
Egberto.
Thank you, my brother. But yeah, I mean, look, like I said, anyone can drop me a line and name me one place that we invaded or we went into for the people and not for the assets, not for the resources. Please name me one. I can't. I scoured all our wars. I can't find one. Anyway, folks, look, the rest of the program you can find at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can email me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. You know I love you all. I love even those of you that disagree with me. Why? Because it is us against the plutocracy, and you are us. You are us. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!